Thank you so much. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you to Starry and to Dr. Daves and to everyone who has been working so hard to make today a very special day there for you. I have to put one other thing on my little resume that is very St. Mark centric and that fits in with the conversation that we're going to have this morning. Let me get the dates right. I think in the fall of 1978, maybe 79, I created what at the time I believed was the first sort of affinity group, Black student organization at St. Mark's that later my close friend Darryl Marshall, I think maybe the next year, called We the People. And it has existed in various forms and permutations since then. And there may have, I don't know, there may have been some similar kinds of organizations before me, but there wasn't when I got there. Another really nice connection to the day and everything. It's always an honor to be connected to St. Mark's, to be involved. What I thought I'd do this morning briefly is just touch on a little bit about my journey with St. Mark's and some of the experiences that I have had and how they inform what I'm doing now. As it said on the introductory page there, I chair this anti-racism community and equity committee from the board. And we are all, along with the leadership of the school, really focused and dedicated to creating an anti-racist school. It's really important to the future of our school community. And I just want to talk about how I got to the point of thinking about this, being involved in this, just to set the stage. And every time I do this, it particularly around a group of young people, it makes me feel old. It ages me. But, I got to St. Mark's in the fall of '76. Just to, again, set the context, it was kind of a tense time around issues of race. I grew up in Framingham, which was literally, my house was probably 5 or 6 miles from the school. I was a day student. So I didn't live in Boston, but in Boston, forced busing was being implemented to try to create integration, to try to provide equal opportunity in education for all students in Boston. And that created a lot of tension. And I think, I was not in Boston, but that just sort of permeated the environment and made things difficult. As well as, frankly, again, just sort of dating myself, Dr. King was assassinated in 1968. The end, sort of the civil rights movement as we know it kind of trickled to an end, and the mid '70s, was not that far from that period of time. And so we were still, as a nation, as we are today, still wrestling with the consequence and the history of race. Back then, as you can imagine, it was much more raw. Even with that, growing up, I felt like I was kind of learning. We have to talk about code switching and learning how to sort of maneuver in different environments. Obviously, I went to elementary school and to middle school in Framingham. I lived in a part of the town that was, decidedly upper middle class, and it was overwhelmingly white. And so I was trying to sort of maneuver there. I remember, I think about middle school, and I was I lost my train of thought, excuse me. But middle school, I was, I felt like I was doing.
Sorry, Michael, I think you are on mute right now. Yes.
All right. My apologies.
No.
So what I was saying, and it's really interesting because I look down on my screen and I see Jenny Golding, who I was in school with during this time. So it's really wonderful to see her. But no, I was saying, I was maneuvering, I was figuring it out. And in 8th grade, I was, I was a great student. I was a really good athlete. I got A's, a couple of B's. I was elected in my little class. I was most likely to succeed. I was voted president of the student body. Like, I was kind of maneuvering. I was, kind of figuring things out. But when I got to St. Mark's, the feeling that it felt like culturally was that, that feeling, it's a hot day and you jump into a cold swimming pool. And for a second, you're kind of frozen there, just waiting to acclimate. And that feeling, that just waiting to acclimate, that lasted for 4 years for me. As I tried to figure out how to maneuver, I was thinking about how best to articulate my experience and what I felt. And the phrase persona non grata came to me. And to be sure that I was using the right word, I went and I sort of looked it up. And, it says a person who is unacceptable and unwanted. And that may be a little bit, keep getting muted here, but that's how it felt. Uh, Now I spend time trying to work around diversity and inclusion and understanding the differences between those two. Diversity being having, a group of people who are different, and there are enormous advantages that are in any institution, any organization, and I'll come back to that. But inclusion is having an environment where everybody feels like they are met kind of where they are, that they are embraced, that they are accepted, and therefore they feel inspired to do and be their best. And we were beginning to, as a school, when I was there, beginning to think about diversity, but we had yet to really even, I think, understand what inclusion was all about. And so, things were difficult. I'll go through just a couple of very quick examples. Um, I was a good writer. I enjoyed writing. I came from a family, very academic family. And I remember, I think in fourth form, I wrote an essay, the first essay that I wrote for this particular teacher. And I thought I did a good job. I spent a lot of time on it. And the response that I got was basically, this is a really good essay. And it's so good that I don't think you wrote it. And I was, you know, sort of charged with plagiarism. And luckily, I was a day student. And luckily, I was able to bring my parents in, both of whom, by the way, had Ivy League degrees, both of whom had Ivy League PhDs, and who were, in all humility, better trained and better, educated than the teacher I was talking to sort of deliver the message that, yeah, this young African American young man, maybe has a little bit of background that could stretch your thinking about what a young person of color could do. Long time ago, I get it, but that was my experience. Athletically, I was a good athlete. Uh, but yet, curiously, junior year, I was on varsity lacrosse. And for whatever reason, I scored goals, played in every game, participated, and for whatever reason, didn't get a letter. And that hurt my feelings, but it's like whatever. And it was just amazing, the evolution. 2 years later, I was good enough to make the Syracuse University varsity lacrosse team. But looking back and saying, wow, 2 years ago, I couldn't even make a letter at St. Mark's, and just acknowledging that there was more to that story than perhaps I knew. And then socially, you can imagine just lots of instances. And I'm going to keep moving here just in the interest of time. The other thing that I think about, just that informed my perspective, was my sister's experience. Robin, my sister, graduated the class of 1989. And I think arguably she did everything that could be done at the school. I think maybe she had a B or maybe two Bs her entire, career there, got all A's, was in the cum laude society, got admitted to a slew of Ivy League schools, um, athletically got a letter, 12 letters, a letter in every semester that she competed, was all American in soccer, competed internationally for the United States in soccer, was all league in basketball and lacrosse. Like she did her thing. She went to Brown, started her freshman year at Brown in soccer, graduated with an electrical engineering degree. Like she did her thing, was even elected or not too long ago was elected to the Athletic Hall of Fame at the school. But still, her feelings about her experience were so complicated that she still, has trouble kind of coming to school. She's only been back to St. Mark's a couple of times since she left. And so for me, I had been gone from St. Mark's for a number of years, had got back involved. And for me, the Black at St. Mark's Instagram page really crystallized, let's just say, the opportunity that we have to really instill a sense of to create an anti-racist institution, to support the work that John Daves and Starry Zoo and everyone are doing around this. I remember when I first joined the board, really quickly, there was a group of students came to speak to the board, and one young African American girl was so uh, hurt by what her personal experiences were that she was crying. And I went outside after her talk to sort of try to console her, and she's crying, I'm crying. I mean, it was just a very emotional thing. And to me, it delivered the message that, you know what, yes, a lot has changed since I was at school, but in some ways there were things that still had not changed. And as long as I was going to be on the board, I needed to try to do something to prevent that from happening to, just to current and to future students. And so that's why I'm so pleased and proud, to support John Days and the broader team on all of the work that they are doing. This work is hard, it is complicated, it's complex. In some ways, St. Mark's is endeavoring to counterbalance societal inputs that have been present for centuries, right? It's anytime you talk about something like race or culture or class, or those are really emotionally charged kinds of ideas. But the one thing that gives me extraordinary hope is, one, I believe deeply in the people that are at St. Mark's, the leadership, the students, and then I also, because it's a prep school, it's a it is in some ways its own little ecosystem where a lot of the inputs can be managed in a way that can really help to make a difference. I think about some of the basic blocking and tackling that we are beginning to think about. I think in thinking about this ecosystem, we have to be really careful about who is coming into the ecosystem, and are they capable and prepared to support the work around this? Are we hiring new faculty and staff that are brilliant in their academic discipline, but that also have demonstrated, capacity around being in a multicultural environment? Are we admitting students who not only are, great students and great athletes and great individuals, have you know excellent character and all those kinds of things that we look to, but that also, believe that there is value to living in a diverse global student body? Um, and then I think we need to create incentives in our school community to value the kinds of things that we want to value around anti-racism. If this was a company and you wanted to create a certain behavior, you wanted to increase sales or you wanted to decrease turnover, then you would create incentives. You would create a bonus for people if they reach a certain sales level, or you'd have a retention bonus if someone stays for X years, then you give them a bonus. You could do things, and it's much more complicated in a school community. But I think honoring people who are committed to anti-racism and to creating anti-racism uh, at St. Mark's, I think is also important. It's 8:53. I promised I was going to be out of here by 8:55. I don't want Starry and John to shoot me, so I'll wind up. I think about our the words sort of that create the ethos of our school: age quod agis. Do what you do well. I heard lots of permutations of that. If you're going to do something, do your best, however we currently sort of think about it. And I think, that is just the perfect um, sort of imprimatur to sort of frame what we're doing around anti-racism and community inequity. I think about the idea of doing what we do and doing it well. What better expression of that phrase than to create a St. Mark's school, an institution where every student has equal opportunity and equal access to the best that the school community can offer. That's not taking away anything from anyone. It's uplifting. It's creating a platform where everyone can enjoy the best of what St. Mark's can offer. It's our mission. It's something that I know the Board of Trustees is enthusiastically behind. And I will just tell you that I am so pleased and proud to work with John Warren, who I have extraordinary respect for and admiration for John Days, for Starry, for everyone, because I know this is going to be hard work. There's no way it's not going to be, but I believe the people are in place. I believe the time is right, and I just feel grateful. I've said in other contexts, I think I've had a chance to do a lot of really really great things in my career, but I think this could be the most important thing that I do, is helping St. Mark's in this way. So I appreciate the opportunity to share with you. It is always great to be amongst my St. Mark's brethren, and we'll be in touch.